I got a couple of messages yesterday after the news broke of like, well, it's college basketball season.
No way.
Oh yeah, people are frustrated. I mean, people, and I told people, I'm like, listen, Nebraska can finish 9-3. They can. I mean, they got a chance. Their schedule is helpful. I don't think you wanted. I don't think you'd want to be playing Ohio State and Oregon with with this with this 22 guys, but they're not playing Ohio State and Oregon. So like, I'm like, hey, they can finish 9-3, and it's going to take some good coaching, and it's going to take everything they got, because there's a reason why they're now an underdog at UCLA. Um, but there's people who are
Wait,
absolutely
they
like,
are?
well, that's the season. I mean, there it is. Glad they made a bowl. 6-6 sounds fine, or 7-5. People are obviously, devastated, because even though people could be critical of Dylan, I think everybody understood that he was valuable to what they were trying to get done on the team. And a lot of people just don't know much about TJ Lateef, and they're going to learn that he's a pretty good player. But at this point, people don't know a lot about him, and that's so people, I think, are a little like, well, what's going to happen now?
We're UCLA is favored.
Yeah, they are.
The more you know.
And that does not surprise me. I think I would have had Nebraska as a 3 or 4 point favorite, maybe. I mean, Nebraska's beat up, and you know this team, and you watch every play a ton of times. You know how much they're going through, and they've remained relatively healthy in the secondary. They have. I mean, those guys are all playing, and they're playing tough, and kudos to them. But they're banged up in a lot of spots, and UCLA is going to try to run the ball 50 times, and that's what they're going to try to do, and they might have success doing it. And Nebraska was going to have a hard time winning out there no matter what. That's what I think. I think it's hard to win on the road. And this so far this year, Nebraska's went away from home three times. They won by 3 points twice, and they lost by 18. So, like, everything is going to be challenging from here. This is not Indiana's roster, and honestly, it's not Indiana's mojo. Indiana is playing with a mojo and a confidence that's rare to see, and that's not what Nebraska's playing with right now. They got to build up to that, and they got to deal with a freshman quarterback who I think they're going to rally around. I think they're going to really come together and try to win for this kid and try to win for Dylan.
Yeah. I agree. If yesterday was any indicate, like, I agree with you, Sam. They're going to rally. He's going home. He's from Compton. He's well liked. I'm not going to say he's the least of their concerns as a quarterback, because the quarterback situation and it not being Dylan is huge. But TJ, the person, is not at the top of their concern list. I agree with you.
What's at the top of their concern list?
So I think right now that, like, they got to look at that game and that environment and put it behind them, right? It was electric. You almost played that game to a T. You wanted to limit possessions. You matched them in first downs. Of the 200 yards rushing, Maeva was a good chunk of it on one series. That's correctable. Like, if you would have said you were going to hold them to 21 points with a chance to go up 2 scores in the third quarter, they're not like those are the things they have to address to move on from, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're going to rally.
No, I mean
they're not healthy. They're not healthy up front.
No.
But you know what? So this is I don't want to. This is
you
just
talk
me.
about offensive line.
Yeah, this is just me.
Still played pretty good.
This is just me. We didn't talk much about the quarterback pressures or whatever. TJ does give them a running aspect too. So if you want to go zone read, you can always not block one of those guys and save the jokes, guys, about whether they block them anyway. I'm not here for that. But you need to punt the ball a little bit better in a couple key spots. Like, Nebraska's going to be okay in a lot of areas. They just can't. They have to dial in on what they need to do, not what everybody else is doing. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Turner Corcoran on an offensive line can run block. Turner can block. I mean, he can run block really well. And it's too bad Pritchett got hurt. We'll figure out his status today, and Rhule will tell us. But they can run block. They ran block pretty well actually against USC. But you got to find a way to score 17, 21 points out there. And that's, I'm just saying, that's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
They do not have.
I'm probably more optimistic than most, but he's just good in these situations. He's just really good in these situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they've, for whatever reason, they've just they scored 21 points on offense against Northwestern, and that was well done. One of those was set up by an interception. Another one was a kickoff return. 14 of the 28 points were kind of set up that way. They just, now UCLA's defense isn't very good, but they had a week of rest. And I think in their mind, they think they can still make a bowl game. And so this is their bowl game. And so they probably won't get many fans, but they'll be fired up. It'll probably help UCLA. This is going to sound crazy, but it'll help them that Nebraska fans are there. It'll give them something to juice up for, so it's not just 12,000 fans in the middle of nowhere in the Rose Bowl. So that'll probably help them a little bit to get fired up. And it's just going to be a hard game to win, and that's going to be the case all the way out here. Penn State isn't playing for anything, but if they put 11 guys on the field, their 11 guys are going to be just as good as Nebraska's 11 guys, and obviously Iowa's Iowa. So I think that they've accomplished a lot of good things this year. This does come down to coaching. Now you really lean into your staff, and you know what your defensive coaches are trying to do. And maybe this week you try to stop the run a little bit more. I actually thought Butler's strategy was kind of clever.
Me too.
It bit him a little bit on the Maeva runs, sure, but like they let him have rushing yards up until about the 40-yard line of Nebraska, and then they tightened that up and they really took away the pass.
I was pleasantly surprised about how, and the one play Marshall gave up late it's not a 50-50 ball, but that's a play more times than not he's gonna make. And the PI on Singleton in the end zone, if he just opens the other way, it was a brain hiccup. It wasn't a scheme thing. He didn't have to do it. You know what I mean? So
right, yeah.
You look at some of listen, that's how coaches and players have to look at it. It's not the difference between an excuse and an explanation is accountability. That's a play. If you gave it to him again, he'd make it. It was on him. It wasn't the scheme. And Marshall is going to win more of those battles than he not. It was a heck of a catch by 16, just like the flea flicker that they had no business throwing. Like Guthrie wasn't fooled, which was a good thing. He's there. You just got to make that play. You know what I mean? Or yep. Williams, conversely, for them, on people say, well, what's wrong with Nebraska getting vertical? Well, they knocked away a couple of balls that were pretty critical. Sometimes it's not always scheme. Sometimes guys just make plays, right? It's just, that's right. It's not anymore. It's not any more fancy than that.
Right. That's offensive defense. And I think again, I've said that I think Butler's done a better job this year than people give him credit for. They are young and undersized on the front line. They in my opinion, and not as a coach or a former player, I think they need to go out and get a couple of bigger bodies, or some of the bigger bodies in the program got to play better or more or something, because I don't think, and the schedule gets a little harder next year, like you're going to have to get a little bigger there, but they'll get more experienced. They'll gain some weight. Keona Davis will weigh more next year, all that kind of stuff. On offense, it's got to be really buttoned up. And then, the game management piece has to be, as Rhule would say, elite. And that means having, I actually thought that their decisions on 3rd and long in the first half to run it and then punt were great decisions. I thought that the management of the 4th down situation in the second half was unfortunate. That I don't know if Rhule would go back and do it differently, but I actually think you could have punted there, and that might have been the best choice of the three. And just said, you know what, we're going to punt the ball, and we're going to make them drive 95 yards to score a touchdown. And I don't know that USC would have done that. And so
what was it about,
what
was it about Archie's punting up until that point that led you to believe you should punt the ball?
Well, I mean, the punt that you're going to execute in that moment isn't going to be the rollout. You're going to try to ask him to pooch punt the ball inside the 10.
I don't know.
And so, it wasn't going to be a prevent the return kind of punt. It was going to be that. What I'll say is that the option that they selected, which was burn 2 timeouts, and we don't know why the first timeout was burned. I assume that it was because Rhule thought the play clock was going to run out, but it wasn't going to run out. The snap got off in time. I think maybe there was 12 guys on the field, but I don't think so. But they burned 2 timeouts and then they missed a field goal. That was not the. They needed the timeouts for later in the game, and then of course, then they didn't use it on the 2-minute drill. They waited until the end. Anyway, all of those things happen because TJ Lateef is a young guy, and you got to try to prepare him for difficult moments. And he did okay. He did drop a snap, and that hurt him. But so there's things in that moment that won't be true this week. He'll go back. They'll have a week to just prepare with him and get all the situations put together. But from here on out, they got to be incredibly good, because you can't expect TJ Lateef to make the 2 or 3 plays a game that Dylan was making. And I know that people are critical at times of Raiola's play, but he made plays 2 or 3 times a game that you cannot automatically assume that Lateef will make. And so, you have to build that in, that Dylan was doing some stuff that was pretty special at times. And he was also imperfect but doing some special things. So now it comes down to the coach, and everybody's got to be great. For what it's worth, again, I think they're all going to rally really strongly around him. And if they go win at UCLA, my God, they might win all 3 of them. Now, if they go out there and lose, they might lose all 3 of them. It's just one of those. It's suddenly become a big game, even though 3 weeks ago we didn't think it was going to be a big game at all.
Sam, how much difference in your mind does it make in terms of the skill sets of TJ Lateef and Dylan Raiola? Obviously, they do different things well, and we've seen different times in Dana's career where he's used those different skill sets in different ways. Like, how much differently do you think the offensive game plan is going to look moving forward?
I think it can look different in a week. How much can you get done? How much can you lock in? We'll see. Then you get a bye week. Then you get 2 more games. Then you get a bowl game. Presumably Dylan's not coming back for that. Maybe he would, but he doesn't have to. And then all of a sudden, now it could look a whole lot different. So, they can do some different things. He's a runner. You can get him out on the move a little bit. There's probably some play action passes where he can get out. Do you want to have designed runs where you're adding a counter, a quarterback counter, where he's just running the ball? They like RPOs. Some of their RPOs are good and some of them aren't as good, and so they're trying to figure all that out. We'll just have to see.
We saw it on the scramble heading to the north end zone. And they were on their side of the field, but Lateef holding that long and getting like the 6 or 7 yard scramble was still having the RPO attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are tough. Like,
yeah,
I mean, the 2 big plays that Dylan hit to Hunter the last 2 weeks, he had one against Minnesota and then one who we played Northwestern.
That big one at Northwestern, yeah.
Where he holds it so long, just from my vantage point as a defensive guy, it's a nightmare. Lateef brings that angle every time he's in the gun with RPOs. Like, it's hard. If they can execute it, I mean, it becomes a crapshoot defensively on what you want to try to take away. He can run for 6 or he can throw it for 10, but you can't take away both.
Correct. Yeah, that's very true. This is a little bit different a shift. Like back in 21, Adrian got hurt against Wisconsin. They bring in Logan Smothers, and they almost beat Iowa, and it would have been an incredible win. And Logan Smothers is a limited passer, but he was similar enough to Adrian that they didn't have to change that much. And if he doesn't fall down on a play, they win the game. So that was more of an easier shift, I think, for Nebraska back in 21 of like, well, we're just going to do more of the things that we do with Adrian, but we're just going to run it more than we would with Adrian. We'll have Logan Smothers. This is a little different in that I think TJ's got to run it a little bit, maybe a lot more, in order to get where you need to go. And so, would they look at Dana Holgorsen knows how to do it. The head coach has got to be able to say, Dana, whatever you got to do, let's do it. Let's let it ride and let's figure it out. And if TJ gets hurt, well, then Jalen Gramstad will come in and we'll run the pro style offense again, which they already know how to do. And Jalen could go and do, under center and all of those things. But I'd try real hard to tailor the offense to him in a week and give him the opportunity to do those things. It may look different, if you got 315 yards and 21 points, I'd call it a success. And then your defense has got to go out and hold them, and I think Nebraska's defense can do that. If you walk out of the Rose Bowl with a 21-17 win, everybody's going to be slapping each other on the back and saying that's the best win of the year. I think I have a sense of how much urgency is attached now, and this is like all hands on deck. So nobody's going to be disappointed if they walk out of there with a 1-point win. It's going to be a celebration.
Sam, why do you think? Have you heard? I had this a couple of times. We're in the same place where I saw it. Where do you think fans got the notion that Latif was ill prepared? Because I think that's not true at all.
I don't know. I don't think he was ill prepared. He dropped a snap
and bobbled another one, which
yeah.
I mean, sometimes that's just nerves, right? That doesn't
nerves.
But
yeah.
I watch him at the line of scrimmage and play calling.
He looked like he knew what he was doing.
Looked like he was pretty prepared to me, right? Or
he was fine.
Okay.
No,
okay.
No. I don't think he was ill prepared at all. I think in that fourth down sequence. So again, Rhule's arguing with the refs about the Corcoran thing, Corcoran falling over and whatever. And I don't know exactly what happened there because the NBC cameras don't give us the insight. And we as the media failed to ask the question about the first down. Like what was going on there? Sean asked about the field goal and Rhule answered all that. But why did the timeout get burned on the first down? I don't really know. So we'll have to ask that today. But that seemed to be a moment where something was going on. Although, again, the snap got off. So I'm not sure what the problem was. Holgorsen was, sort of calling the play. He kind of took over the team for a second while Rhule was arguing with the refs about a flag that wasn't going to come. And I understand why he's working them, and I get all that. I wonder what they thought when they watched the whole tape and they watched Corcoran blocking the guy in the back for 7 yards into the pile. To me, it probably should have been a flag on the USC guy, but there's a kind of justice done there. Like it probably shouldn't have been a call at all, and it wasn't. But anyway, they're kind of going back and forth there, and that was a moment, and then the play didn't get pulled off. Somebody called timeout. I assume that was Rhule. So maybe that was a moment where things got a little scrambled, but I thought Latif was fine. I didn't think he didn't seem rattled. He seemed appropriately upset after the game, like it was his fault, and it wasn't. I mean, the reason they lost the game wasn't because of TJ at all. Like I think USC is a good football team, and they played their best football late in the game, and they beat Nebraska a couple of times on 2 long passes, and they called the right quarterback runs at the right time. USC's been on the wrong side of those games for 2 years, and they were on the right side this time. It's unfortunate that it happened against Nebraska, but USC's been close to winning games like that, and they finally won one. And I'm sure USC's looking around and going, we're going to go 10-2. And they're probably not, but they probably think they're going to. And if they did, they'd make the playoff.
Sam, what did you think about prior to the Dylan injury? What did you think about the game plan offensively and how it was being executed?
Really good. Yep. I thought they did a great job of the first drive of the game was just masterful. There's no other way to put it. It was absolutely what was needed. Took 7 minutes off the clock, took a 7-0 lead. Ball got out of Dylan's hands fast. He was able to hit some short completions, and then he hit a great touchdown throw at Key. I thought that the 2 punts in the first half, or punting them and pinning them down there, was terrific ideas. Didn't try to force it on 3rd and long. Forced USC to go the distance, long fields. They get 2 field goals, but you know what? It's still 7-6. And then 14-6 at the halftime with a great with a great drive late in the first half, making plays, great run plays. I thought it was a terrific plan. And defensively, I thought it was a little tricky, but it was clever. They got it done. They gave up a lot of rush yards, but they didn't give up. But keeping those safeties back, you're not going to give up a 70-yard run. You're going to give up 15, 17, 13. But so long as those safeties are back there, you're not giving up the 80-yard run. Well, when a team's got to drive 85 yards and you're ahead 7-0, you'll do it. And so I actually thought it was pretty clever. Now, late in the second half, Maava hits those 2 runs, and again, that was a good adjustment on Lincoln Riley's part. You have to give him some credit.
Yes and no. Like, I love the fact that it was timely in the run game, but Nebraska defensively, as individual, like guys that have quarterback and guys that have inside run have to be better too. So yes and no on his willingness to keep it, but you got to do your job too. And you're a free defender twice. You probably ought to be in better position. So I love the cat and mouse, but sometimes you just got to make plays too. If I would have asked you this, Sam,
I think I have more grace for the defense than most people do.
As you should.
As good as I thought they were going to be.
As you should. Like I wouldn't. I always say this, man. People can make you dumber. But let me ask it to you a different way. If I had told you that Nebraska would be within 15 yards of Southern Cal rushing the football and almost the same yards per carry with 2 more carries, you think Nebraska wins that game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like so much of it lined up.
Me too. That's not the way. Of all the ways I thought SC could win that game, that's not it. So I don't know if it's the quarterback thing. I don't know if it's Pritchett. I still think we're overlooking the fact that Nebraska got pinned deep punting, and Nebraska conversely wasn't able to pin SC deep punting in the second half. Getting the ball at the 27-yard line on the miss hit, I thought was kind of key. The one in front of Nebraska's bench in the second half. That's a little understated. So it's a total team thing. I hate we just look, it's almost like we don't know any better, right? We just look at numbers and we think, oh, they did this, we can't do this. When in action, it's like, did you watch? Did you watch how this unfolded? And do you know this relative to what SC typically does? They're well under their averages. Under their averages.
200 yards under their average, 20 yards under their point average. Again, Nebraska's defense did a great job. Like, I understand that they made some mistakes late as far as the punter's concerned, and this is another situation where I'm a little different from a lot of other people. I have not gushed over that guy. And let me tell you why.
It's not about
I'll just tell you why.
Okay.
He's actually, a lot of people did, though. They thought he was the greatest punter on the planet, and I did not. And here's why. Because he's way younger than almost all of the Australian punters who come over here and play right away. Like Torrey Taylor was 25 when he graduated. So this kid was going to go to Tennessee maybe and sit for a year and then learn. This is a process for him too. And so I have a lot of grace for Archie Wilson because this was kind of going to happen. It was unlikely that he was going to, a lot of times those guys will come over here at 21 or 22 when they've been in that thing for 2 or 3 years. And so you got to be careful with overhyping stuff and you didn't do that, but there were a lot of people, there was a million feature stories. And I'm like, guys, we just have to be cautious about anointing anything here when this guy's way younger than some of the Australian punters who come over. He's going to be great in time. It's just, and then he didn't punt for 3 weeks. And so, like, he didn't get a chance to punt against Akron and Houston Christian and work out some of those things. I think Nebraska's lucky that the USC returner fair caught 2 of the punts, because if he had chosen to return, I mean, one of them he could have chosen to return, and he may still be running. And so, Nebraska got a little bit lucky on a couple of those, because I think Wilson's reputation preceded him. But he, again, I built in that he's not perfect. I think it's hard to make 52-yard kicks in Memorial Stadium going into the north wind. I know there was no wind. I know. But, that's not easy to do. Alex Henry did it once upon a time. But how many field goals have been 50-yard field goals have been made going north in the history of the stadium? I don't know. 10? Probably not that many. And so, I knew that was going to be hard. I think Nebraska's defense is playing about as hard as it can. They're not perfect. But this is, in my opinion, this is where the rev share money and the extra money's got to go in the off seasons. They got to go get even more guys up front. That's my opinion. Now, obviously, they need a second running back and 2, and they'll get that. That'll be done. But they've got to continue to build that side of the ball, because that side of the ball is where they need continued work. Obviously, guys are banged up. McGahee's banged up. Maverick Newton hasn't quite worked out the way they'd hoped. Ochoa hasn't quite worked out yet. He's young. So's Noonan. So's McGahee. So, when McCullough gets hurt, they're bringing in a guy that's converted from middle linebacker. And so, they've got to continue to grow on the defensive side of the ball in terms of the personnel. But I'm not disappointed by anything that happened for Nebraska Saturday night. I think, other than maybe that management moment in the what was it, the third quarter, that they burned 2 timeouts. That was unfortunate, and I'm not sure why the first one was burned. I know why the second one was, but if it were me, I would have just went and kicked the field goal instead of trying to do the window dressing and burn another timeout. But that's me, and I'm not the coach, and he got extended, rightfully so. Matt Rhule had a good week last week as a program leader. They didn't win the game, but there's no reason why they can't win the last 3. There really isn't. They can go beat Iowa. Iowa's a good team, but they can beat them. It's Iowa. They're not going to run away from anybody. So, find a way late in the schedule to pull off 3 huge wins and get things going toward the bowl season.
That's our guy, Sam McKewon, Omaha World Herald. Sam, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Sam.
That is Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald.